Well, hello and welcome to episode 31 of PhotoKitchen. I am your humble host, MD Welch, and today on the menu, we have a short but sweet tutorial that's going to help you save time on anything that you're doing inside of Photoshop as far as like speeding up productivity. Now, I will say this is for the person who uses Photoshop and does a lot of the same repetitive stuff over and over again. And yes, it involves actions, but it's not exactly what you think it is going to be about. Now, let me just give you the kind of broad overlay of this. 95 to 98% of all the work that I do in Photoshop is retouching photography. Usually it's my photography, but I also retouch other photographers' photos. But my workflow for retouching is always the same. So I want to save a little bit of time and effort when I'm working inside of Photoshop. And this might seem like a very silly thing, but if you take into account that I do this sometimes 60 to 100 times over a day or two, and even though that I might be only saving a few seconds, you add those seconds up and it starts to really multiply and starts to turn into some serious time. So first of all, let me walk you through my just very simplistic retouching workflow. First order of business, I make two brand new layers. For this, I go up to layer, I go down to new, and I go to layer. I usually use the keyboard shortcut. I call the first one retouch, and then hit OK, and I get a new layer called Retouch. Always retouch in a brand new blank empty layer. A little bonus information, if you do this, make sure that all of your retouching tools have the sample set to current and below or all layers depending on your workflow. Don't retouch in the same layer that you're actually working on. It will make life very difficult. So I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to do a keyboard shortcut this time. I'm going to call this Botox. Tongue in cheek there, but I also separate my retouching into two different layers. Now, my friend Zakota here doesn't need any work as far as Botox goes, but if you have somebody who has texture, anything like that, that is more related to their experience and time on the planet Earth, I'm trying to say that as nicely as possible, then maybe you need to help out with that. But a lot of times people will come back and say, oh, that's a little heavy. You made the person look maybe a little too young. It's a little too smooth. Can we bring something back to it? Hey, no problem. You've separated blemishes and issues from the actual age-related kind of retouching. There, I said it. It's age-related. And you could just simply go to opacity and reduce your opacity. The other thing that I do is I picked up this trick recently. I created a black and white adjustment layer, and I essentially take the red channel all the way down to negative. And what that does is it really shows off any sort of, especially when it comes to fair skin, it really shows off any issues in the texture. This only works for fair skin. If you're going to do it for other skin types, you would have to adjust the reds and the yellows, but this kind of works for me as a catch-all. And if I needed to, I just open up the adjustment layer and then make a change to the reds here so it's easier to see blemishes on other types of skin types. Now, I can do this fairly quickly, time and time again, but it does take a little bit of time. And also, I want to do the exact same thing over and over again. Maybe I misspell layers. I'm like actually looking at the names of my layers right now and making sure that everything's okay. Long story short, I don't want to keep doing this. So of course, I'm going to use my history panel here. I'll go back to when this is open. I have made an action and I simply call it Start Retouch. And when I hit the play button, everything that I just did happens and it is carried out. The black and white layer is not as exaggerated, but you see the change there, or you see the similarities. I get the exact same layers going on. All right, that's great. That's fine. And I'm sure that 98% of the people watching this already know how to create an action, already know how to use an action, and everything that I've just said has wasted your time. But here's where maybe things get a little bit different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to history here. I'm just going to go to open. Actually, you don't even have to do that because it's kind of removed from this whole process. Now, I will say before you do what I'm about to show you, you want to have an action already created or else this is not going to work. But you can modify the action afterwards. So if you just wanted to start off with the name of an action and then modify it later on, you're more than welcome to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to File and I'm going to come down to Scripts. And I'm going to come over to Scripts Event Manager. Sorry, that's Scripts Events Manager. We want to get that right. And what Scripts Events Manager does is it allows you to use JavaScript to kind of automate further things inside of Adobe Photoshop. Now, you're not automating in the same way that actions are. Actions are pre-recorded things that you do. Scripts Events Manager allows you to have things happen as Photoshop, the application, is working. I want to stress I'm not an expert in this. As far as JavaScript and writing things, but this will give you kind of a glimpse into how you could use this. I'm going to come into here, I'm going to click on this, and I've already done it, so I'm just going to remove everything here. So this window looks a little complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. At the very top, you have enable events to run scripts or actions. You want check mark next to that. You want that box checked because that allows this whole process to happen. Ignore this center box for the moment because that's where our scripting is going to go. Now, before you think that this is super, super complicated, it's actually really easy. So the next section is where we're going to do most of our work. Photoshop event is what Photoshop does and then what you want to have happen after Photoshop does that. And if you click the drop-down menu here, you have a lot of options. You have the start of the application, new, open document, start save document, closing, printing, exporting the document, everything, which that's an interesting concept. And then you could even create your own event. For this demonstration, I'm going to do open document. So every time a document opens, so it's coming open from say Capture One or Lightroom Classic or something like that, I want it to do something. Now you have scripts that you could actually do your own scripting for. We're not going to do that here. We're actually going to come down and just do something as simple as an action. And I'm going to say action, default actions. I have a thing called My Cool Actions. That's where all my custom actions go. And then I'll change the action to Start Retouch because that's exactly what I want to have happen. Now I'm going to hit the Add button. A lot of times you'll hit Done because you think, oh, well, I've done everything, so I just simply hit Done. No, you're going to hit Add. That's going to add this to the actual script now, and you're actually running this. So every time this opens up, it's going to run this action. I'll go ahead and hit Done, and then let's just give it a test. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go ahead and do a close. We're not going to save. And then I'll go back up to File and I'll do an Open Recent and go ahead and click on this. And there you go. Everything has been run. So just a few quick things to point out about this. If you go to your history panel, you will see that all of the steps in the history panel have been recorded for the action. That may be a big deal if you have an action that has a lot of steps. It's probably not too big of a deal for open or new documents, but it might be a big deal for something that you're doing that's a little bit more complicated, like a print or a save. So I do want to point that out. In my particular case, there is the every now and then instance where I'm opening up a document that I've already retouched and it wants to run this action again. Now, in some cases, it just gives me an error and I just cancel the action. In other instances, it goes ahead and redoes all of these layers. And if that's the case, I just go to my history panel and I just come up to the top and click on Open, and I'm back to what the document looked like before it ran the action. So I'm just back to my regular retouching layers that were already there from the previous opening of the document. Now, this is a little bit of a pain, but all the time that I pick up from my action, because everything's automated, includes selecting the retouching tool that I use the most. So I'm just ready to go. I'm okay with every now and then having to go to history and coming up and hit open. It's not the end of the world. So that's it. Yeah, not a lot today, which is good. Every now and then we'd like to keep it short and simple in the Photo Kitchen. So hopefully you've liked this video. If so, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And if you have, thank you for your support. Please share this with anybody who is maybe looking to make Photoshop a little bit more efficient or save themselves a little bit of time using a little bit of scripting, a little bit of actions in combination together. It's like peanut butter and chocolate. What can I say? So until next time, I am MD Welch wishing you all the best from Photo Kitchen.